properly here.
Sure. Welcome to the Golf Podcast Live. I'm your host, Rafael Kalamat. I'm in Oakville, Ontario. I'm at home today, not in studio. We've got Michael Bleackley with us, as always. This is going to be an interesting podcast. We have a very special guest. His name is Rick Young. He's the Score Golf My Spy Golf contributor, equipment analyst, columnist for the Toronto Star, and president of the Canadian Golf Journalists Association. Welcome to the show, Rick.
Well, Raf, you got me here at the moment with you as usual. Looks like Rick's connection just severed, as did yours. So here comes Rick again. I'm going to let him in. Hey, Rick.
I don't know what happened. No idea.
Gotta love technology, and it's
great, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's we need it, and it's the bane of our existence all at the same time. Raf lost just a few seconds after you. We lost him as well. So here he comes.
Yeah, something must have just I was perfectly fine there. I don't know what the deal.
Well, we run an Ethernet connection on the show, so we have a pretty strong bandwidth, but you never know. Well, with the
you never know. No, you never know. No.
The beauty of going live. Right. So
take two.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go. Raf, you're back. Can you hear us?
Absolutely. Are we still live?
We're live. Let's go.
All right. Welcome to the Golf Podcast Live. I'm your host, Rafael Kalamat. I'm in Oakville, Ontario, as usual, but I'm not in studio in Mississauga today. Thought I'd stay at home for this amazing Masters week. So much news out there. Always with Mike Bleackley, who's in Vancouver at the ECS agency, the developers for all your web needs. And today we've got a very special guest. His name is Rick Young. He's from Score Golf, My Spy Golf contributor, equipment analyst. He's the columnist at the Toronto Star as well, president of the Canadian Golf Journalists Association. Is that correct? Welcome to the show.
I was actually, Raf. I'm no longer that. I've moved on to bigger and better things. There's a new president in the chair these days, but I had two great terms, and I'm pleased with what we were able to accomplish. So it's all good.
Oh, that's great. We'd love to start the show off to talk about not just the golf week, not just the Masters, not just the fact that Corey Connors just won his second Texas Valero Open, which is an amazing accomplishment going into the Masters. But tell us a little bit about yourself. Our viewers and our listeners on 15 different platforms want to get to know our guests. So, Rick, tell us how you got involved with golf and what you're doing these days.
Well, it goes back a little ways. 1983. I was writing a little bit of hockey when I was in high school, and prior to that, you guys may not believe this, but I was a published author at the age of 11 years old. I actually wrote a story about professional wrestling, and it got picked up by a magazine, and a couple more did when I was about 12. So I got the bug early when it came to the writing thing. And it just so happened that a good friend of mine named Andy Juniper was the assistant sports editor of a local paper here in town, and met me uptown one day, and we just got chatting, and he just said, hey, he said, would you be interested in writing about golf? And I go, sure. I mean, like, what do you got in mind? He knew I was a golfer, and so we kind of just hummed and hawed a little bit over the details. He took me up to meet the sports editor, and lo and behold, he said, he kind of gives me the once over, and he says, okay, kid, I'll give you a shot. He's like one of these old newspaper guys, right? He says, I'll give you a shot. He says, you pay $25 a week for the summer. Show me what you can do. And so I came to the end of the summer, right, and I get a call from the paper. It's called the Sentinel Review here in Woodstock, where I live, and come see the sports editor. He wants to talk to you. So I'm thinking, well, that's it. I'm done. It's over. It's been a good run, but it's done. So I went up to see him, and it was actually the opposite. He said, no, he says, I really like what you've done. He said, just keep right on going. Your new pay is $35 a week, and He said, just keep telling me what you know and appreciate about golf. You're doing a good job. So that was in 1983. This is my 40th year. Started doing some provincial stuff around 86 for Ontario Golf News. Moved a little bit into the national scope with Golf Canada magazine through Golf Canada, and then I got picked up by Score Golf, and Bob Weeks hired me just to do, just to be a contributor and that kind of thing, and then gradually got a little bit more into that. And then in 1999, he kind of knew that I had a flair for the equipment and business space.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 1999, he gave me a call. He said, meet me at Weston. He said, we're going to have breakfast. He says, I just want to pitch something at you. And he offered me a job to be the equipment and business analyst for Score Golf. That was 1999. And that's where I've been ever since. And then along the way,
what a great time, 1999, exciting with the emergence of golf and Tiger Woods and the growth in the industry.
Look, like let's be honest. The three of us right now, we can all, well, I mean, this is blunt to say, but it's the truth. All of us can kiss Tiger Woods' ass, okay?
Yeah.
Because it's the truth. Because like a lot of people who now make a living from golf in various mediums, they wouldn't have that space or that slot or whatever it is that you do without Tiger Woods coming along in 1996 and basically changing the paradigm of what golf is on this planet. Okay, I will always give him the utmost respect for doing that, to build the game and to change it the way that he did. And it changed for me, even because now, we get into again, you talk about the stars aligning, right? The stars aligned perfectly for when he came along and the internet came along and the different levels of television that came along. And, I was fortunate to catch on with My Golf Spy. I got to know Adam Beach, the founder of My Golf Spy, back through the PGA show, similar to what the three of us were talking about prior to, with Matt Adams and some of the people and contacts that I've made down there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been great. I mean, it's been a fantastic way to see the golf world. I've met people, been places, played with people that I never would have otherwise been able to go to and talk with. And it's been, I got no regrets, guys. 40 years, I have no regrets, not one.
I trust you're making more than $35 a week now.
Yeah, not much more, but it's all fun, right?
It's all relevant.
It's good.
And My Golf Spy has turned into like the encyclopedia of golf for me. Anytime I'm looking at a purchase, I get right into the website, start looking at their testing. Like what they've done for ball testing is tremendous. Over the last couple of years, showing, the quality level, the manufacturing process of all the different companies out there. And so every time I look to buy anything, I'm right into that website. I think it's a great tool for us.
And it's what they've done, was realistically what they've done is they've created a consumer's digest for golf, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really what this is. I mean, they break it down to a very data and analytical type of viewpoint on product and services and that kind of thing. And they do an amazing job. I mean, I'm pleased to be a part of that team. I don't make a regular contribution, but when I'm called upon, I'm always appreciative of being on there, because those guys have got quite a network now. I mean, they're up to about 2 million people, I think, that are registered with their website. So that's something right there. That speaks volumes.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. I remember you bring up 1999 and how that meeting came about with you and Bob Weeks. And we've spoken to other Canadians like Richard Zokol and Ian Leggett, Adam Scully, who's a lot younger, but Mark Zecchino, and they talk. Everyone brings up that time between 1999 and 2001. I recently saw a post that you did on Twitter and from Golf Ontario that Bob Boschman is going to be receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award. He's going to be placed in the Golf Hall of Fame. He's one of my mentors. Bob supported me with many of my ventures and things that I wanted to do. I sat on the board for the Professional Golf Management Program for their alumni tournament. And I was just talking about this trophy behind me before we got on with Mike, because Mike's name's going on it. It's actually, it's a tournament that we put on for many years. It started in the year 2000. And I believe it's one of Bob's last professional wins. I don't know if you could see that. It's 2000. It's Bob Boschen.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
The inaugural winner.
Inaugural winner of the event. He came all the way out from Toronto to Dorval to play in the event to support the cause, and me trying to put a tournament together. And he just came out with his wife and ended up winning it. So you could bring that up. I don't know if the event took place at Wooden Sticks yet.
No. So the event at Wooden Sticks is next month, and it's interesting for Bob. Bob is one of the very first people that administrators that I met, high profile administrators relative to golf anywhere in North America. Bob, at the time that I met him, he was he was the commissioner of the Canadian Tour. He was overseeing it. He was the visionary. He was the guy that was doing all the legwork, doing all the calls, doing all the administration and stuff like that. I mean, he was the Canadian Tour. And Bob is it's funny, I hadn't seen Bob for the longest time, Raf, and we had our Golf Journalists Association of Canada golf event last year at Oakdale, and of course that's where Bob teaches right now. And lo and behold, I was so happy I ran into him. I haven't seen him for probably maybe, I don't know, with COVID, 8 years, 9 years, something like that. So we had a great chat, and I'm really looking forward to sharing the evening with him next month. It's gonna be great.
Make sure you bring up my name. I haven't seen him in 20 years.
Okay.
I took countless sessions with him, lessons and classes and programs, and it'd be great to catch up with him. Great to get him on the cast possibly as well.
Great man.
Him being the director of golf over at Oakdale Golf and Country Club, where the Canadian Open is actually taking place this year. It's kind of serendipitous on how all of this is happening at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look forward to seeing him. And when I do, I'm going to pass along, your coordinates, where you guys are, what you're doing, and hey, get him on the show. He's still just fantastic to talk golf with, man.
Yeah, he's got great stories.
Infinite storyteller. That man has a story going back to the likes of Gary Cowan and Mo Norman and Stan Leonard and
amazing.
He's played with all of them back until the early 80s. I think he got his card in 79 or 80. He won the Portuguese Open at one year, and I think that's part of the Challenge Tour now. But that's fantastic. That's great. Well, let's pivot to another Canadian, Corey Connors, Valero Texas Open.
What a weekend.
What a weekend. Fairways and greens. A lot of people find him to be a boring golfer because he just hits those fairways and greens. But I'll tell you, when he gets that putter going, he should be a top 10 player in the world. And he will be, I believe, with the last three Masters where he's finished T8, T10, T8, and T6.
Right.
And that's trending. And with a win so early on this year, just before the Masters, very exciting with 4 Canadians in the field. But your thoughts on Corey Connors, Mike, as well, your thoughts on Corey Connors?
Well, I thought, I watched all of yesterday, which was great. I intermittently watched through the previous, basically highlights for the first 3 rounds, but if you 4-putt in golf, sometimes that could just ruin your confidence for the week, but he found a way to get it back. And just his ball striking yesterday was fantastic. And a little bit of bad luck on 17 coming out of the bunker, even 18 for that matter, right? Like those shots just kind of, 18 was a bit fat. 17 just was unlucky, hit the wrong spot in his landing. And he could have been, 2-3 feet for a birdie there just to give himself more insurance. But it was tremendous. And what I thought was most impressive on 18, watching Stevens, messing around, trying to figure out where he's going to hit his second shot from, and finally makes a decision to lay up. And I felt for Corey in that moment because it was painfully long. And I thought, this guy, he's not in contention. He should just make his decision quickly and hand the spotlight back to Corey to finish up. But he did it. Tough 2-putt in the end, 2 feet 8 inches. To win, give him full credit for grinding through that and knocking into the cup, because it could be a different story if he 3-putted there. That would have just train wrecked his confidence going into the Masters, perhaps. But I'm excited to see him hot and rolling into Augusta.
I think too, what we have to look at here is we have to take Corey Conners back to the President's Cup last year. And we have to look at the 0-4 record that he posted. He didn't have a good week. I mean, it was tough. Neither he or Taylor were on their game, and of course the Americans were simply too difficult and too tough to beat. And but I think I looked at that, and it was funny. After it was over and he got back, and I had a chance to talk with him about Mag, I'll say a couple 3 days afterwards, and he didn't sound downcast, downtrodden, didn't sound negative one little bit. He talked about the experience. He talked about how being in that environment was going to make him a better player. And I think that's the difference, and that's one of the things that we have to look at with Corey Conners sometimes. Is he's super inquisitive. He's always trying to learn. He's always trying to get better. And I think, you talk about the trends, Raf, that you just mentioned, 10, 8, 6, moving up the Masters over the last three tournaments there and stuff like that. And then I look at him and I got to be honest with you guys, he probably shouldn't even be playing golf for a living. He should be building rockets. Like, honestly,
what did he study? He studied statistics in school.
Statistics. I mean, he's so smart. Like, he's so smart. And I mean, I'm not saying you got to be a dumbass to play golf or anything like that, but I mean, he's just able to take the best parts of a situation and find the positives in it. I mean, if that had been me, I'm going to be honest with you. If that was me at the President's Cup last year, you might not have seen me for a month. Like that was tough. Like that's one of those things you've wanted to do your whole career. You get that opportunity, and then it just absolutely goes sideways on you.
Speaking of the President's Cup, Rick, I mean, the next one's going to be pretty interesting. Mike and I were over at the 2007 President's Cup. I had the opportunity to walk inside the ropes for CJAD 800 AM in Montreal on that final pairing with Mike and Tiger Woods. Very exciting. But going back to Royal Montreal with Mike Weir as captain, and then we've got Corey Conners, Mackenzie Hughes, Adam Svensson, and a lot of other Canadian boys just showing up, but those are the 4 that are at the Masters. It's very exciting. And I got to tell you, Corey's a very defensive putter. He leaves it short most of the time, but that bodes well for Augusta. He reads a lot more break, always misses it above the hole, kind of lags it in, and it seems to work for him in the last 3 years. And a lot of the guys just go through the break. You're looking at aggressive putters like Phil Mickelson or Ricky Fowler. They just go through the break. Jordan Spieth, he plays those breaks. It'll drop in at 6 o'clock or 9 o'clock is what I'm saying when he's putting there.
Look, I'm not going to tell either of you or the people who tune in to the 3 of us today, and I'm going to tell you that Corey Conners is ever going to be a top 10 putter in the world, because he's not. He's just not that way. Yes, what I just mentioned about him learning and being inquisitive and that kind of thing, 100%. I mean, that will never go away. He will improve his putting, but he is what the 3 of us know to be that term, a streaky putter. He needs things to go absolutely correct when it comes to line and weight. He doesn't look like he's changed. I mean, Raph, you look at him probably way more than I do in that respect. But he doesn't look like he's changed his putting stance or his posture or anything since I was watching him in the U.S. Amateur in 2005 or whatever the heck it was. Like he hasn't changed in that regard. Like to me, his ball striking is I'll be blunt. Corey Connors might be the best ball striker on this planet right now.
Yeah. When I saw that, did you see that?
Totally serious when I say that.
Those fairway bunker shots that Mike and we talked about this all weekend. Those fairway bunker shots where he hits the greens and spins it back or brings it in within 15 feet of the cup. I just don't know anybody else who could do that besides Spieth, right? There's not too many players, or John Rahm. So he's in a very exclusive class of people, right, Mike?
He exudes confidence, and you could see it all through the back nine yesterday. Tight fairways, others are missing them, rolling them through, and he's just throwing that ball right into play with no fear, right? And that was great to watch. Even on 18, come back to that hole. If he wasn't confident in his ball striking, he probably would have laid up and then wedged on to the green rather than, going for the green in two and end up in the back bunker, which isn't a scary shot for those guys. But under that pressure, if he wasn't confident in his ball striking, he might have taken the safer route.
His demeanor is like a Canadian. His demeanor is like a Canadian Scheffler. He's calm. He doesn't show too much emotion.
But he was playing to win yesterday, which was great to watch.
Right.
He's playing to win, because one of the toughest things as a professional golfer is getting the first win is paramount to taking the next step in your career. But I'll tell you guys that
validating that
a lot of these guys winning number two. Winning the second one, that's even more difficult. So once you get over that hurdle, and now which he's officially over, I mean, you can start making a pretty good argument that Corey Connors could literally jump from where he is. And I think OWGR, I think I saw him this morning. I think he's back in is it 33? Sorry if I don't. 28. So I can see Corey Connors being, I know this seems big, but I see Corey Connors potentially becoming a top 10 to 12 player in the world. Now, I will say this, a couple things have to happen. I mean, he needs to somehow find that next level of confidence in his putting that he has in his long game. And is that possible? Derek Ingram, who is coach of the national team with Golf Canada, fantastic coach on every aspect of the game. Could Corey possibly need another set of eyes, like possibly like a Ralph Bauer or a Gareth Raflewski? Maybe that could help.
What's his caddy's name?
Danny Saul.
Exactly, and he's a player, and he's not just any player.
Oh yeah,
he's a player that didn't make it out on tour. He missed getting his card on the Corn Ferry Tour. They have an excellent relationship. He said in the 3 years they've been together, they've never argued. Previously, he was on Vijay Singh's bag, where he learned a lot. And, I think that's a great relationship they have there. And Corey seems to like to figure things out on his own.
And it's good. I think that inquisitiveness that I keep, coming back to, I think it's good that he has that, because he's always trying to find that little, they all are. They're trying to find that little extra, whatever it happens to be, that can help them do something that they haven't done previously. But I just, like I said, I don't think you're not ever going to see Corey Connors become Jordan Spieth on the greens or Tiger Woods or anything like that. But can he improve? Well, definitely, because if you look at his putting statistics right now, they're not. I mean, they're not where he wants them to be, clearly, and from a consistency level. So I mean, I think if you start pushing that envelope a little bit and maybe trying to find some other ways to get those numbers a little bit better and move yourself up, then suddenly those top 10s or those top 20s become 10s, the 10s become 5s, and then the 5s become maybe more wins.
Mm-hmm. It
Right?
usually comes down just making those couple extra putts. If he made 2 or 3 extra putts over the course of a weekend, that makes a huge difference in the leaderboard.
That's it. So, and I think the other thing too, and Raf makes a very good point on Danny Saul. Again, there is no player on the PGA Tour that's not going to give his caddy an immense amount of credit. Mm-hmm. Yesterday, and I don't know what you guys felt or how you sort of maybe were internally thinking about it as you're watching him, but I'm glad that a guy like Danny Saul is on his bag. I'm glad that a guy like Danny Saul is there to calm him down, to talk through things. And he's not ever going to get too emotional about anything, but just to walk him through steps, give him options. He's in his ear. That's Danny. I mean, again, and Corey knows where that's coming from because, as you guys are saying, Danny's a great player. I mean, he was a very good player who almost made it right where Corey is. So
I think there's that respect factor of being a player, and he still maintains his game, which is interesting. Guys, we've got to move off this. There's so many storylines.
Let me just throw in one thought,
go ahead,
Raf. I believe it was the 15th hole up at the green. Kuchar kind of made a poor effort from this spot, but what I thought was interesting, you saw in the video, Kuchar, his caddy, and Corey Connors, and Corey's having a conversation with Matt's caddy, just to casual chit chat, and while Kuchar's preparing for that, and I just thought, like, what other sport do we have that you would see this, where they're battling, you'd see each other, like Kuchar was threatening to get into the mix, yet they're having a casual chat like buddies out in a foursome. So I just thought that was really cool to see. Reflects the characters in our sport.
Yes, it does. Mike, do you want to bring up a new storyline? We've got enough. I know we got a list to get through.
We've got a list here.
There's too many.
our number one on the list was the entrance of the big bad live players coming into Masters week here, and so
okay,
17 of them. Let's kick
18,
that around.
18. Let me ring off a couple of names so our viewers or our listeners could hear and tell me what you think, boys. I think it's a pretty great list, and there's a lot of possibilities here. We've got Abraham Answer, Bryson DeChambeau, Sergio Garcia, Taylor Gooch, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Jason Kokrak, Phil Mickelson, Joaquin Niemann, Kevin Na, Louis Oosthuizen, Mito Pereira, Thomas Peters, Patrick Reed, Charles Schwartzel, Cam Smith, my pick, Harold Varner, and Bubba Watson. Not a shabby list. I think they're going to make their presence felt. I think they're going to put things to the side and have a great tournament, enjoy the tournament for what it's worth. It will not be a circus. The only people that will make it into a circus is the media trying to poke at them, and they're doing their job, rightfully so. They're going to try to get us some storylines, great, but I don't think the players have too much animosity. It's built up too much on social media and with different articles that have come out. Your thoughts on the live players? Let's starting with you, Rick.
Long time ago, there's a book. It's up on my shelf here in my office. It's written by Thomas Boswell, who's a Washington Post sports writer, and he did a lot of golf coverage, covered a lot of Masters in his career. And he did there's a chapter in there on I believe it's Seve, and there's a line in it. Don't remember in what context, but I just remember the line. And when you go to Augusta National, you don't go there to find your game. You go there because you've got one. Okay?
Yeah.
I would never say that any one of those 17 players that you just rattled off, Raf, I would never say that any of those guys don't have a game. They all have a game. Mm-hmm. And do I think that they're playing the level of courses with Liv that they were playing with the PGA Tour? I would say no at this particular point, but they're still playing some top-notch golf courses, even though they're not maybe to the same level. At the same time, I look at, this is the Masters. This is Augusta National. This is like, you don't go there like Joaquin Neiman. I don't know where the hell he's coming from with this line the other day about, well, they hate us, so it's going to be so great to, to go there. They hate us,
Yeah,
if
Joaquin,
you're thinking,
I bet that's been taken out of context and a little bit of a communication problem. It's a sort of a thing that in the mid 2000s, I remember all different South Korean players saying certain things were taken the wrong way. Well, that's just an opinion, though. Yeah.
Well, even still, even if there's some media-based sort of bias towards a PGA Tour, or towards Live, or some players are saying this and that. Look, this is the first major of the year. If you're going to Augusta National on the premise that this is a thing between Live and the PGA Tour, you have no chance. You have no chance, because you will be exposed. That golf course, those green surrounds, those greens, they will expose you, and you will be chartering your way out of Augusta on Friday night and headed home. And there is no doubt about that. This tournament especially is one of those ones, to me, that can drive a man crazy, and just based on nothing more than the green sites themselves. So this to me, everybody's trying to build this up as to some, undercard thing from WrestleMania 39 over the weekend. It's not that. No. It can't be that.
No.
This is the first major of the year. This is going to be, once the first ball gets hit, this is going to be underplayed, and you're not even going to barely know about it, hear about it, or anything. No. Do I think there's going to be little things like the Live uniform thing, and that stuff's going to get brought up by the media. I get it. But from a player standpoint, even the Masters traditional dinner that's coming up that, Ben Crenshaw said he had concerns about, I have no concerns about that. Yeah, it's dinner. Yeah. You're going to dinner with a bunch of guys that like to talk golf the way we're talking about golf right now.
These guys, they're not going out to the parking lot to, throw fists because of anything. They're all professional athletes. They're all like, class acts. They're not going to misbehave in Augusta National. And sure, some people have said things in the media, but that's all going to be squashed. And some of the people who've been most outspoken won't be at that championship dinner anyway. So I think, as much as we all like to be a fly on the wall in that room, it'll probably be fairly uneventful.
Very
uneventful. You've been over at the Masters. Tell us about your experience being there, when you went out there, and what it feels like to be on the grounds. Mike and I have yet to take the trip. We've been talking about it. Mike and I have known each other for close to 30 years. So we've been talking.
Yeah. We want to go in there with media credentials, not paying 10 grand to go get special tickets.
Right. Well, to be honest with you, I've never actually covered the Masters, and one of the reasons I haven't is because I'm a big believer in if you're not there to do a job, then you shouldn't be there. And if I'm not there to cover the tournament on a daily basis, then I'm taking up a chair that somebody could be covering the game for their publication with, and there's only a certain amount of room and that kind of thing. However, I do put in every year into the lottery. And 2017, I was just scrolling through my phone, and an email popped up, and it's from the Masters, and I could see the first word was CLNGR, and I'm thinking, oh my God. And I open up the email, and sure enough, I got selected for 2 tickets for Saturday. for
Wow.
the third round on Saturday. So my father was 83 years old. I've been watching the Masters with him. He's been watching the Masters for as long as it's been on TV, right? And so I knew I was going to take him, and I'll still never forget his face when I went over to the house and told him that's what we were doing for Father's Day. He thought I meant he was coming over to my house to watch it over here. I said, no, we're going to Augusta.
Awesome.
And
Right.
So we get there, and I think what you guys will want to do if you ever given the chance, however you do it, there's just something. It's magical. Like it is a magical place. Like when you pull in off of Washington Road, Beckman Road, and you pull in, you put on that parking lot, into that parking lot, and you walk. And where we parked, you walk, and literally the very first thing you see on the golf course, you turn to your right, and you see the 13th green.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just incredible. And you buy your chairs, you buy your patrons chairs, and my dad always liked the 12th hole, and so we go and we set our chairs up at the 12th hole. We walk the entire golf course, and again, you got to remember, my dad's 83 at the time, right? And he walks this whole place. He walks up 18, right up that hill, all the way up, and
it's not an easy walk, right?
It's not an easy
flat.
TV doesn't do it justice.
Very underappreciated just how hilly that place really is until you get there and you actually do it. And
next to Kapalua, I think it's the most undulating course on tour.
Oh, I think though that has to be right, 100%. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing too is from an experience standpoint, I'm not going to suggest for a second there aren't better golf courses out there, because I believe that there are. But in terms of an environment, in terms of just the amenities, just the whole ambiance, just the feel of every moment that you're in there is just, it's special. Like it really, really is. I mean, hell, it's special just going to get a pimento and cheese sandwich, for gosh sakes, they make it that special.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, that's just the way they do it.
I heard they brought back peach cobbler ice cream this year.
Yeah, they've got it back.
They got it. Nice. They're having supply chain issues with that, weren't they?
They were. Yeah. And I think that's just part of the. I hate to say it, but I'm not a fan of the pimento cheese sandwich, but I tried it. I did. Because when you go there, you gotta.
Is that why it's $1.35 still? Because no one actually likes it.
I think so, but that's just some people just can't get enough of the damn things. But that's good. I mean, I think again, just one final thought on going there. When you go, I think you sense the same thing with the players. The players know that they're in some place very special. I understand it's a major, of course. I mean, and that just everything ramps up times 10 when it comes to a major championship. But I just feel too like I just look at the golf course. I look at everything about it. I look at everything that they do. I mean, there's never seems like a blade of grass at a place. There never feels like there's a paper blowing around. I mean, it's just, everything that you read about it, everything that I read about it, I always thought was sort of maybe hyped a little bit. No.
Yeah.
Not hyped.
Well,
it's not hyped at all.
I see it almost like a museum. It's a national monument. It's a national treasure in the United States. I'm just going to cap off the live thing. All these players have a lot to prove. This is the only tournament they're actually fighting for, because they could still play into the US Open and the British Open. But the PGA doesn't have any type of qualification. So that's a non-factor. I think the Masters, because it being an invitational, and the only way they're able to get in was the official World Golf Ranking. And thank you for sharing your story. That's fantastic. Mike, we've talked about champions.
Just say we haven't heard Bryson DeChambeau call it a par 67 this year, so which is relieving.
Well, he hasn't broken par since.
I just want to throw that out there. No, the course showed him who's boss after he said that. Nope, it looks like we just lost Rick.
Well, that's okay.
You'll call back in a sec.
But look, we've got a lot of players to talk about. You know, out of those players, live players, Mike, who are your favorites? You know, it's hard for me to pick. Brooks Koepka, coming off a win, right, in Orlando, on Brooks. Tour, and he said it's the first time he's felt really, really good about his body, because he had a lot of problems with his knee.
He's had a lot of problems. Knee, it was all affected. I think it was a chain of injuries relating to the knee, which affected him, and he had to compensate to deal with that. It's great to see him healthy. I like Brooks in the game of golf. I'm not like his largest fan, but I like his kind of his ego. And you know, he's got some swagger, and you know, people don't receive that well, but I like seeing him in competition. And this week, I'm pretty excited to have these guys in the field. Like, I'm looking at this list here, and I like all of these players, and I like their positions in the game. Like, again, like Patrick Reed, I think he's a solid player and a good dark horse pick for this week. But he really, he's not a popular guy, but he's a great golfer. And I like his spot in the game. But you know, out of these guys, like I like Abraham Answer. It's always great to see Louis Oosthuizen in the field. I think he
always shows up at the majors.
He's a solid, consistent pick in the majors for pool. Cam Smith, obviously one of the hottest players, if not the hottest in the world, right? And Bubba's good creative game. I mean, I don't anticipate Bubba's going to contend this week, but you know, he's one of those characters. It's great to have in the field. Great sense of humor.
Coming off injury as well.
He's had problems
in shape, but
the creativity he's got.
The creativity is incredible.
Yeah,
you know, I love Bubba Watson for that reason. He's not the type of guy who spends all his time looking at TrackMan and at the numbers. Now, he dials in all his clubs, obviously, to know his numbers. But his imagination of shaping shots, you know, hitting it off the pine straw, and hitting those shots through those famous shots that he's hit with the 70 to 80 yard fades and power fades. It blows my mind away, right? And out of those players, if you think about the ones that are truly creative, they're all Masters winners. Phil Mickelson.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
Speaking of pine straw, right?
Oh yeah, no, I remember the shot through the trees. Nobody forgets that, right? And another magician on the golf course, Phil Mickelson. You know, take away any of the controversy. Let's forget about all of that. Because prior to that, Phil was one of the most beloved players in the game. Right. And you know, in my opinion, he still is. He's one of the game's great characters, and the creativity and the confidence and fortitude that he has to hit the shots that he does, and the high flying flops, and you know, he's a true artist of the game. So yeah, it's great to see these guys back in the field. It's like getting the band back together again, and we can go and just watch them play golf. That. Here comes Rick. So yeah, I think, and I'm just happy to see all these guys in a field again with PGA. And
well, welcome back, Rick. You're back. Welcome back.
Yeah,
Rick.
I don't know what's going on here. Crazy.
You know that happens with internet sometimes. Mike and I were just breaking down some of the key players who are playing or coming from LIV and how creative they are. We just did a breakdown of Phil Mickelson and Bubba Watson and key shots that they hit over the years. Talking about also Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka coming off a win on LIV, finally feeling better. But we wanted to pivot a little bit and talk about 7 players in particular. And these 7 players are all over the age of 50. We've got Fred Couples, our very own Mike Weir, Bernhard Longer, who's now, I believe, 65, Sandy Lyle, Phil Mickelson, Larry Mize, and Jose Maria Olafabo. Here's my first question to you guys. Out of those 7 players, Fred, Mike, Bernard, Sandy, Phil, Larry, Jose, who do you think is most likely to make the cut?
I mean, I never bet against couples. Like I just don't, not at Augusta National. I just never bet against him. He's just that type of guy around that golf course. I'm just not sure about the other guys, to be blunt. Some great talent there, but we're talking about 7,600 yards now, right? With the addition to the 13th. Mm-hmm. I think if you wanted me to pick two, Raf, I'm going to go Langer and Couples. That would be my two.
Yeah, my first thought was Langer, just because he's. I'm starting to think he's an alien. The way he can just keep on doing it. It's 65 years old and just unbelievable. And I agree with you on Couples. He's sort of arguably the godfather of golf and Augusta. So I think those are two solid picks. Sandy Lyle, I don't anticipate him making the cut. Olafable, you never know. I admire his play over the years. What a grinder, and he's done some amazing things. But I think those are the two safest bets. I agree with you there, Rick.
Yeah,
I'm going to jump on four guys. I'm going to jump on just four guys.
Wow.
Fred Couples, Mike Weir, Bernard Langer, and Phil Mickelson. And I think this is what you were going to allude to, the weather. If it was wet, I would say possibly Fred, and that's it. But because it's going to be dry and it's going to be hot, and the drainage at that golf course is tremendous, the greatest technology on the planet are under those greens with the aerifying systems on fairways. I think all four of those players, Sandy, Larry, Jose, are certainly, I think they won't make the cut, but we'll see. You never know.
Yeah, I think the weather is supposed to change. I think the forecast has kind of moved a little, like, again, start early in the week, and this is not going to play to Tiger's strengths, obviously, either. It's going to start off pretty warm, as you say, Raf, and then I think as the week wears on, the weekend right now is not looking good at all. It looks like it's down to about 13, 14 Celsius and rain for both days on the weekend. To me, that automatically, as soon as I see that, automatically, Rory McIlroy. That guy has played some amazing rounds of golf in very foul weather. So I think a guy like him right away, and some of the Euros, I think that really plays, to their strengths, as opposed to, and it certainly doesn't help Tiger one bit with the situation with his legs or his back or his hip. So there you go.
I think that's a good pick. These Euros they grow up playing in bad weather, right? So they'll be used to that, and it'll soften up the greens, so they're going to be more receptive. And a guy like Rory's got the carry to deal with 7,600 yards.
Yeah, we've got a lot of Europeans. That's a great point, Mike. There's Shane Lowry, Victor Hovland. We forget about Matt Fitzpatrick, Danny Willett, and a very little known player named Adrian Meronk, who's a player from Poland. Won the Irish Open last year and the Australian Open, 7 top 10 finishes, and got into the top 50 before the end of the year, which is pretty incredible. However, not thinking much of his game coming into this, being his first time playing. But we've got a Justin Rose and a Sepp Straka playing, and who else? Alex Noren. So some of those guys might have a good chance of playing well on the weekend. My pick would be, just like you, Rick, Rory out of the European players, and I'm looking at Matt Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is I always felt and thought that Justin Rose, his other major championship was going to be a Masters. I really believe that. Mm-hmm. I always thought it, and I realize he's now into to 40 or 41. I'm not saying he can't do it. He certainly can still do it. It's going to be a little more difficult with the additional yardage and stuff. He's not as long as some of those big bombers out there. But the one thing that the guys like Fitzpatrick and Hovland and to a degree, even Jordan Spieth, they just get it around those greens. They have that ability. And I think right now, I mean, if we were picking, we haven't really talked about anybody that's you know, one of those guys that's just sort of really, really good at every sort of part of the game and doesn't have really any glaring weaknesses or
John Rahm.
John, I mean, Rahm right now, to me, he looks like the guy that honestly should win this golf tournament. That's the guy that I think should win. Somebody will say, well, what about Scotty Scheffler? Yeah, I mean, Scheffler, McIlroy, and Rahm. Realistically, they're the three best players, and it shows up on the official world rankings. And you know, you look and you think, man, it's hard not to take one of those, you know, three guys. But invariably, we always seem to find those guys that, like the Justin Roses, like the Matt Fitzpatricks, they find a way to elevate their game at Augusta National. And I think that's going to happen again this week with one or two or three guys that we're just not expecting.
Expecting, like an amateur on day 1 or 2, seeing one of those 7 amateurs pop up. You know, we've got, you know, 17-year-olds to 21-year-olds playing there with Harrison Crown and Gordon Sargent, Sam Bennett, some great players.
The one thing I would say to that is you always tend to need that experience around Augusta National. You always have to usually, I usually give it 3 years. You have to play the Masters 3 years at least before you really can appreciate and understand and really have got a good solid working knowledge, a good notebook for yourself on every one of those holes. So that's where I think it's good. It's tougher for the amateurs to do that. But stranger things have happened. The way these kids are playing now, like just even the drive, chip, and putt, some of the talent there that I saw, man, it's
Mike, why don't you speak to that, Mike? Because you're a top Canadian amateur, and you've played you know, hundreds of events.
Talking, Raf.
Yeah, you know, but I mean, just playing tournament golf and feeling that pressure when you're going into these events as an amateur and going into a pro flight. I'm sure, you know, we've played in quite a few events. Mike,
that's where the reps give you that experience. So if an amateur's never been here on a stage this large, they're going to have trouble, you know, unless they've had the foresight to maybe communicate with a local caddy, you know, and observe. Like, remember Fuzzy Zeller won on his first appearance because he had a local caddy. It was a huge boom on that. But you know, it depends on how much experience these amateurs have. And I'm sure that at this level they played with pros before, but this is a whole new animal. You know, the arguably the best tournament on the planet. You know, maybe Gary Player doesn't agree with that, but a lot of us do. What a major do we look forward to really the most? It's this one, because we've been starved since the PGA championship wrapped up. But even those don't have the same elevation that this does, because you know, we would arguably chop off a pinky to be in this, to be on the grounds, not in the field, just to be there. So but yeah, it's experience. And day 1 and 2, sure, an amateur could maybe make the cut, maybe creep into the bottom end of the first page of the leaderboard, but come the weekend, pressure hits, and you know, I don't know. I don't see an amateur finishing in the top 10 this week. Hate to say it to all my
we've got a bunch of other players. Now, we haven't talked too much about the American players and the Asian players. Now, we've got 2 Japanese players, Kazuki Higa and Hideki Matsuyama, obviously, and then the Koreans, Kei Young, Lung Lee, which I don't know much about, Tom Kim, Siwoo Kim, and Sun Jae Im. I think Sun Jae Im is kind of flying under the radar for this tournament. He's a great player. He's got an all-around game. He grinds. Last year, you know, he was in contention for a little bit. Your thoughts on any of those players? Do they stand out for you?
Sung Jae Im does. He always has. He's always impressed me. He's just one of those. He's just one of those guys that again. I talk about players with no weaknesses. I don't feel like Sung Jae has any real weaknesses in his game. He's done it at the top level. He's played President's Cups. He's been in the heat of the battle with for major championships. So I think he's a great pick for Sunday down the back nine with a chance. I like Tom Kim. I just think he's got loads of game, and I think right now he's going through a little bit of a just that little bit of maybe self-doubt, because things maybe aren't going his way, on a week-to-week basis and stuff. But that kid is explosive, and I think there's some serious championships to be won once he gets his feet really grounded. And but again, as we say, you've got to have those two, three masters to really appreciate the nuances of Augusta National and be able to fit them into your game.
Yeah, getting to know those green complexes is key, because you can't just fire at pins. You got to aim at quadrants and use creativity to get the ball close. And there's no, it's very unlikely somebody in their first set or second year is going to come in and take it. Not to say anything can happen in our sport, but yeah, I think you need to get those, 2-3 years. 3 years makes sense. Just. Yeah. You got to feel it. You got to learn. There's no way around it. Even if your caddy's got experience, I agree with that.
Let's not forget about our Canadians. We've got four Canadians: Mackenzie Hughes, Adam Svensson, Mike Weir, and of course Corey Connors. Guys, your favorite pick outside of Corey Connors out of the three? Obviously, we think Corey might just pull off another top 10, but Mackenzie Hughes, Adam Svensson, and Mike Weir. It's been how long, Mike, since
it's 20 years.
20 years since Mike won. It'd be great to see him make the cut. And,
I like Svensson out of the three. Obviously I like them all. Of course, but Svensson is a VGT alumni. He's played well this year, and I would choose him out of those guys.
Yeah, I would go. I'll just go the opposite of that, and I'll take Mackenzie. If for no other reason than he's won this season already. He's been in the heat of a final day a couple of times as well. I think Mackenzie Hughes. I'm happy to call him a friend. We've played some golf together, and I love his game. But I love his demeanor too. He looks like that guy who's always challenging himself to be better, and he knows the stage. He's been on the stage before, and I think he does have some working knowledge of this golf course now under his belt. I think all eyes are going to be on Corey. I get it. I mean, and that's rightfully so, coming off of Valero Texas Open and a second one, cowboy boots, twice, right? So, but I really believe that Mackenzie has a good chance to do some damage here. I really, he's a mutter. He can play in any environment and do well. And I think he's got a really good short game. I really do. I think his short game is his strength, and I'm looking for big things. I'm looking for possibly a top 10, top 15 finish, and who knows? You just never know on that last day.
Tiger Woods. Now, Rick, you've got a great story. I think you're coming out with something soon. You're certainly the expert as an equipment analyst. Tell us about the shoes. There's been all this talk about Tiger Woods' shoes and how he went back to Footjoy because he needed a flat sole and all of that. Tell us what you got, an inside scoop where you're going to be coming out with an article.
So yeah, I'm coming out with something on scoregolf.com in the next day or two.
Excellent.
It's just basically what's gone on since last year's Masters, when Tiger first showed up at Augusta National wearing a pair of Footjoy Premier Packards. Now that wouldn't be noted for too many reasons, except this is Tiger Woods and he has a massive agreement with Nike, and it's a head-to-toe agreement, which obviously includes shoes. Because of the accident, he said during his press conference last year that he needed something more stable. And in Nike's defense, they really aren't making stable golf shoes anymore. They make athletic sort of Air Jordan 1 type soles, and that's not going to be any good for Tiger. And that's not me just saying that, but what I decided to do is I decided to reach out to two people in this country and maybe actually North America that know as much or more about golf shoes and biomechanics and the biomechanics of the golf swing relating to golf shoes. And I reached out to Casey Ward, actually the head golf professional at Credit Valley in Mississauga, and to Sasho McKenzie, who's actually, he's the co-inventor of the stack system, which you both probably have heard of. But he's also probably the planet's #1 golf biomechanics. So I reached out to them and we had a great conversation about the stability aspects of what Tiger needs in a shoe now. And that's relating to swing performance as well as walking. And so I think I think anybody that sort of intrigued by Tiger or footwear or whatever, I think this is a good read. I think they'll be interested in this. And I certainly learned a couple of things that I didn't know. And Tiger grew up in Footjoy Classics, so it's not like this is unusual for him or anything like that. But what is unusual clearly is the fact that he is wearing Footjoys as and I would say the flagship product of Footjoy, and he's wearing that as a Nike athlete. So that's interesting, and there could be another chapter or two to this story before it actually all plays out in the end.
So where can we read about this? Is that scoregolf.com?
Scoregolf, yeah. So scoregolf.com. That'll be up. My editor, Jason Logan, will probably have that up sometime in the next 24, 48 hours. And hopefully everybody enjoys it. Like I say, there's a couple of things in there that I think will surprise a couple of people.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Look forward to it. Then look forward to seeing Tiger this weekend. I watched him on the range broadcast this morning. It's great to see him on the grounds, and I think we can all agree that having him in contention would just be a dream for golfers. We all know it's a long shot for him to take home a trophy, but hey, it's Tiger Woods. You can't ever rule him out.
Never.
In his mind, he could win.
Yeah.
Yes. Will his body allow him to do it? There's no doubt that he has the skill, the experience. Obviously, probably the greatest golfer that's ever played the game, next to Jack Nicklaus, and he could do it. But let's see if his back, his knee, his ankle, his neck, his arm can hold up.
Jeez.
He looks fit though, and he looks like he's in a good place. All these pictures that I'm seeing over the last 24 hours, he's smiling, he's walking around, he's he seems to be enjoying himself. Walked around the golf course yesterday with a wedge and a putter, hitting a number of shots. I'm thinking, getting the feel for the quadrants and the feel of around the greens, because that's kind of what was missing last year, that touch. His putting stroke, he putted it off the green last year. He was going by the hole 10, 15 feet. And chipping it into the mound, just getting stuck in that grass. And it wasn't Tiger, a regular Tiger out at Augusta. But it'll be interesting. We all love Tiger.
So we have to get the media to question his ability a little harder and then light that internal fire. And then he'll do something great.
Because he always says, do you think you're going to win? And he always says, yes, that's why I'm here. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think I was going to win. That's it.
Yeah.
Stock answer for Tiger
He's not
Woods.
there for an honorary walk around the park. No, he's there. He believes it, and you have to as a professional golfer. You shouldn't be there if you can't believe you have it in you.
I do find it interesting that he employed the same approach by arriving at Augusta National yesterday afternoon, and as you say, he took his putter and his wedge, and just went out with Joe LaCava as caddy, and they just went and they just did work around the greens. He did the same thing when he won in 2019. So it'll be interesting to see just how dialed in that short game will be, because I would say of all the players in the field this week, nobody will know the greens and the movement of those greens and the shots required better than Tiger Woods. Nobody.
No, that is true.
You might have just Bernard, who's played it a few times.
Agreed.
He as well walks around, and he spends, from as much time as possible preparing. Other players have said they've never seen anyone else prepare for the Masters the way he grinds, as longer grinds every year to play. And so I could see Bernard making the cut, but we'll see if he has the length. It's probably the only thing that's setting him back, but he hits those hybrids so high because you need to have a great launch into those greens to even hold them. So, if you got these downhill right to left lies on the fairway where you're set up for a hook, but, and then everybody aims to the center, but that downhill lie gets you to push it out to the right. So the shots actually go straighter than most of the guys think their first, second, third time around. They finally catch on because they don't even listen to the advice they get.
One of the things too that the three of us can definitely agree on as well is and you just said that, Ralph, that it's one of those situations where you have to go in with a certain trajectory into these greens, and I don't mean it's the same window every single time. Yes, high and soft is critical at Augusta National, but control is also super critical going into those. And Michael referenced the quadrants that the players are being asked to hit shots into. You just can't hit a certain type of shot one way and expect it to work each time. I mean, there's so many different factors that go into that. So your window, your height of your launch can be so radically different from one day to the next, depending on where that flag is and that kind of thing. So
a great example, Mike, you talked about this on 16. If you go in the top right-hand quadrant of the 16th par 3, you're putting straight downhill towards the water, and you can't stop that ball. There's no friction on those greens. It's like putting on linoleum. So you're, if you get it 8 feet by, that's a pretty good leave if you're on that top right-hand quadrant and the pins on the left-hand side, closer to the pond.
It just, you saying that, Raf, makes me think of Gary McCord and his comments that got him banned from the property. He referenced the greens compared to a bikini wax. I'm paraphrasing slightly, but
right.
Sorry, Gary, you're out. He's not.
And it's funny. I mean, we can sit here and we can, you can criticize McCord for saying that, but you know what? He's not wrong. Yeah. He's really not wrong. Like, those things are just incredibly fat. And I didn't get the appreciation until I was actually able to go and be on site and sit and watch some of the players and talk about, you talk about some of the putts that we're talking about here, and I'm watching them and where they're having to aim them and just how soft they're coming off the putter face at impact. I mean, it is a marvel at just, I mean, I would hate to know. Honestly, I feel like I'm a pretty darn good putter, but if I was to play that golf course, I really don't know what I would, what I would do on those greens. I just don't, because again, it would just fully depend on where your approach shot wound up.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
I love the creativity side of golf, and I mean, myself, not the longest hitter, but the short game I mean, the short game area, I could spend a week there just pitching balls, and it looks magic. But the undulations of those greens look so fun. Yes, you'd probably three putt a lot, just going out there as an amateur for the first time, but it would be a hell of a lot of fun.
Mike, do you remember when Len Matisse came on the show? And we've spoken to him twice, and he famously finished second to Mike Weir in 2004. We brought that up, and we talked about the greens quite a bit, and he talked about the quadrants and the green complexes and the speed of the greens, and it was interesting to hear it from his point of view. And he never realized how much of a household name he is in Canada, because everybody remembers in the golf business who Mike played with in the playoff. And so when we talked to him about that, he seemed quite taken back, but he's quite the historian in golf. He knows his golf so well, and hearing firsthand from a player who's played the golf course is pretty incredible.
Yeah. And what's interesting too about a guy like Matisse is he's the kind of guy that I'm talking about, that when one of those guys that come out of nowhere. And I mean, whether it's a Larry Mize who beat Greg Norman that year, or whether it's a Matisse that gets into a playoff with Weirzy in 2003, like there's always that Cinderella story that seems to come up. Not saying that they win or anything, but they become part of the story. And again, I think that will happen this week.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And in a few days, we will know what the story looks like. So I can't wait.
Well, I'm really excited. Thanks for coming on, Rick. We've been going over an hour. I'm thrilled to have you on. Go check out Rick Young over on scoregolf.com, as well as My Spy Golf for all his equipment information and his storylines. Come
on, Raph.
My Golf Spy. What did I say?
My Spy Golf.
I see.
My Golf Spy.
That's right. That's right. And, we're going to wrap this up by talking about your picks for the Masters. Your picks, the first names that come to mind. And maybe I'll start just because I'll have you guys give you guys a few seconds to think about what your top 2-3 picks are, or if you've got more, sure. Fantasy pools are all the rage these days. Everybody likes putting down a little bit of money and having some fun with all of this. Obviously, I'm going to go with Corey Connors. With his form and what he's playing, I've got him down. I've also have Scotty Scheffler to go back-to-back. I think he's one of those players that might make history and go back-to-back. I've got Tiger Woods, just because I want to be nostalgic, and it would be great to see him win. And Rory McIlroy finally putting away this win and having his career Grand Slam complete. Isn't that what we all want to see? We want to see him complete his career Grand Slam. Guys, what do you have in mind?
Go ahead, Rick.
Well, I mean, I like your pick of Rory, Raf. I'd really like to see Rory complete this Grand Slam. I believe he is going to do it at some point, whether it's this week, whether it's sometime down the road. He will get this done. So I mean, certainly he is one of my picks, but I'm a little more off the board. I think, again, the look is the Scheffler, the Rahm, and the Rory at the top. And that's all fine. And I think that's fair. But one of the guys that's doesn't seem to get mentioned often enough when it comes to Augusta National, I don't know why. It's just kind of weird for me. But I really think that it might be Justin Thomas's time. I really think that Justin Thomas is going to win a Masters. And it's not going to be in the not too distant future here. I think he has a great chance this week. And then I know this might be a little bit of a stretch for some people, but I don't think it is at all. I think Max Homa is actually he's going to win a Master point as well. And so I think that Max Homa Maybe hasn't played as well the last couple of events, but I think he's been trending in the right direction for the last 2 years, literally, and I really think that he's ready to take that next leap. If you're just asking me though, who do I think is going to win this golf tournament this week, bar none, I have to say I really think it's going to be Justin Thomas. I really do.
That's great.
Yeah,
Love the pick.
That's a good pick, and I've always liked Homa. It's great to see him start to have a lot of success over the last while, and I agree. I wouldn't be surprised to see him don a green jacket at some point. I'm picking Lowry, and going to give credit to Hovland and Fleetwood as well.
Interesting.
I'm calling
Great.
those good performance from those guys. So we'll see. We could all be fools by Sunday night, and it could be Ryan Fox from New Zealand for all we know. So
I would love. Wouldn't it be great to see a final pairing of Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson? Wouldn't that be something?
Everyone would go nuts, right? And but I would actually like to see some dramatic pairings, of Liv and PGA guys, and maybe some of them who have been a bit outspoken towards each other, just to get some on-course drama having, and maybe get some duels happening, and maybe they're not in contention or whatnot, but I would like to see some other stories happening here, and a little good quality drama. Nobody fighting or anything, but just good quality battle on the golf course. I think there would be some good sub stories.
Might be good to put Fred Couples and Phil Mickelson together. I think Couples called Mickelson a nutbag again today.
Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
That's highly likely. Right, that's highly likely they could end up paired together.
Who knows?
Yeah,
it's possible. So it's very interesting. But you're right. Whatever happens by Sunday night, we could look like complete fools. Probably will.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of the Masters is it brings the golf community of this planet together like almost no other event. Maybe the Open Championship. But the time of year and when it is, where it is, who plays, and the fact that it is Augusta National Golf Club, I think it bodes well for a lot of great drama, no matter what. So it's going to be fun.
Well, this concludes our Masters week, guys. Thanks for coming on the show. Make sure you check out Rick Young on scoregolf.com. A special thanks to Mindshare Workspace and the ECS agency for supporting us since we started. Until next week, I'm Rafael Kalamat with Michael Bleackley and Rick Young. Take care, guys.
Thanks everybody.
Guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, thanks, Rick. That was great. I'm going to cut the feed here. So